Hi, Taylor, can you hear me?
Hi, Dina. Yep, I can hear you.
I don't know if Shirley and Ralph saw the you know what, I'm gonna text it to them in case they didn't. Saw the you think they saw the new it wasn't new, but do you think they saw the meeting ID and passcode in the last few moments?
I'm not sure. I've got a couple people that are emailing me right now, so I'm trying to.
Okay, you deal with them. I'll deal with them. I'll send them the I'll send them the passcode.
Hey, Dean.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Because we're having technical difficulties. I'm trying to send the number to the other speakers. It's okay.
You do your thing.
Found Ralph.
Oh, Ralph's on?
Yep, I just let Ralph in, and there's Shirley. There we go.
Excellent. Okay.
I think Zoom just went through some updates within the last week, so I think they're just starting to take effect.
Okay. 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 Good morning, Ralph. Good morning, Shirley.
Morning.
Good morning. Finally, what the heck was going on with Zoom?
It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. So I'm trying to figure out Morgan.
Yeah.
I never use a virtual background. Look at my shoulder.
Oh. I think
It's
it looks
coming
really
and going.
nice, so I
I know,
like it.
y'all stop it. Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I'll figure it out.
Hey, hey Morgan.
Yeah.
Is there I'm usually the host on these. I don't see the poll that I created for this for Shirley. Do you see that on your end?
I do.
Okay, yeah, it says I'm logged in on another device, so I can't launch that.
Okay, so just send me, I'll put my phone on, and so text me when you want me to launch it.
That'll be on Shirley's queue.
Yeah, I'll mention it. I'll mention it, Morgan.
Perfect.
And make sure that I am a presenter so I can share my screen.
Yep, I'll make you a co-host real quick.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. I was gonna say I'm not sure.
I'm just checking. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
And Taylor, do we have Q&A turned on?
We don't in meeting, but so they'll have to do that via chat.
Via chat. Okay, let me make a note of that. Via chat. And then at the very end, are we going to open it up so that their mics are on to ask questions?
I'm trying to, I can't tell if there's an option to do that in a meeting. I think everyone will technically have their cameras either on or off since it's a meeting format. Sorry, I'm still getting emails. I think Zoom had some crazy updates. Oh, go ahead, Morgan.
Oh no, I was gonna say, did the invite have like a delay in going out?
No, it went out at 5 yesterday. I send it out at 5 all the time, so I'm not sure what happened. So more than likely, it's they'll just be able to unmute themselves, or I don't think that they can't raise their hand in this. So they should be able to be allowed to talk. And then at the end, Leonardo said the breakout rooms at the end were fine. So I'll launch those, and then I'll make sure that the three of you, Ralph and Shirley, are in different rooms.
Okay. Okay, so who's going to get this kicked off? Taylor, are you going to do that?
I did not plan on it. I'm getting like so many emails, and Leonardo said, I'm in the meeting. I'm going to come in under my own account. I'll need you to run the PowerPoint. Okay.
Okay. Taylor, what can I do that helps you? Is there anything?
Honestly, nothing, because Zoom is so slow. I don't have access to anything.
Okay.
So Taylor,
Uh-huh.
you can just start the meeting and I will start talking. Okay, so you don't need to worry about introducing me. I'll just introduce myself.
Okay.
Okay, so just calm down, relax, take a deep breath, and let's get started.
Because we do not want to have baby delivery today.
No.
We don't want to have
No, we
baby
do not. No, we do not.
Oh,
Do you want
no.
me to, let everybody in from the waiting room? Or
No, not yet. Because
Okay.
I now have to pull up the PowerPoint and have that ready.
Okay.
Shirley, is there anything last minute you wanted to tell me and Ralph? Since we missed our practice today. It's
Oh,
okay.
I think we're ready. We're professionals and we'll make this happen.
Morgan, do you have, when you registered for the meeting, do you have the access code that you can send to Leonardo? Because I can't pull up anything on Zoom.
I just went into my calendar invite and
Mhm.
I
I can
just
send it
went
to him,
in,
y'all. I can send it to him. Just the regular passcode
Yep, he needs the meeting ID.
and the passcode, right?
Yeah, because Morgan,
Okay.
that same link that I sent in our calendar
Yeah.
invite, that you have to register through Zoom on that, and then it'll send you the code.
okay, here, let me
Oh, you
email.
want to send it to him? Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
And then I'll send him the Zoom link too. All right. So, all right. The thing is we have good attendance, it looks like. 35
Yeah,
people in the waiting room.
Wow.
Yeah, we have
Good.
about 55 that registered for this, actually.
Oh,
Aramaza had a lot of their clients that were interested, so I think they ended up sending about 32 people.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
probably because Dina and they found out we are appearing here today.
I'm absolutely
There
sure
it is,
that's
Ralph.
what it is. That's the only thing that's different. So that must have been it.
Oh my God. That's precious, Ralph. He said, must be us, must be us.
I'm in IT. I'm just doing a little troubleshooting, that's all.
It's on my shoulder.
So can we send a message to the people in the waiting room? Because we don't want them to.
Leonardo's taking care of that now.
Okay.
I'm a little too worried on clicking on anything.
He's doing that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
For some reason, Zoom is really slow at loading anything right now.
Yeah, noon must be a very popular time to Zoom.
Absolutely.
You'd think people would get tired and want to take a break at noon.
Get off Zoom for a little while.
Yes, I'm kind of zoomed out normally by noon.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I'm not sure.
I don't see
Leonardo jumped
waiting
on. I'm not seeing him come through yet. Oh, okay, there it is. 219.
Hey, Taylor, do you want me to find this presentation in, is it in the events folder?
I already have it up. I have it up. I'm ready. I'm waiting for Leonardo to get started so that, or for him to jump in, which he should be. Everybody just needs to be patient.
If I knew we were going to be delayed, I would have spent more time on my hair.
Don't start.
Yeah. Like 10 seconds.
Oh, I rushed.
Hey, Leonardo.
Okay, I haven't seen him come in on in just yet, but Shirley, if you want to get us started,
I
I'll
think she's on.
and then I'll pull up the presentation and hopefully he comes in within the next couple minutes.
Don't worry about it, Leonardo. I've got it. I've got it. Just relax. We'll go ahead and get started. Come in when you can.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, but Taylor's on, Morgan's on. All the panelists are here, so we're ready to get started.
This is just
And-
frustrating just because I don't understand why it's just, doing this.
Oh,
I found him.
saw him.
I see him. He's in.
You
I just
see
let
him?
him in.
Saw him for a second.
Okay, it looks like you're coming in.
Okay. All right. It just keeps saying connected. Okay. All right.
There we go.
So I think the issue is between their updates, but also our membership database just joined with Zoom. So I think
Oh,
we may not do this again.
Okay. Well, let's we admit them all in.
Hold on just a minute. I need to pull up this PowerPoint and then
Leonardo, your face has a shadow over it. I just wanted to tell you. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
no,
just
I'm,
wanna-
I'm getting ready to take this. I had to come in on my iPad, and so sometimes it's a little bit different, but I may just
Oh.
actually just take the virtual background itself off. Yeah, I couldn't. I was just telling Shirley, I've been trying to come in from 3 different devices.
Wow.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even in the office right now, it's still just spinning.
Wow.
okay. So let's go ahead and let everybody in. And then Leonardo is just the opening slides are just the first one with
Yep.
Yep, and then the sponsors.
And then I think the sponsor slide.
You got it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and admit all.
You have found those labels. He's no longer in competing against mere mortals.
And Taylor, you can just tell me when you think we're at a good place. We've got a great attendance coming in this afternoon.
Yep, it looks like we have, I'll say, about 90% of our participants in, and nobody's in the waiting room.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, well, for time's sake, we will get started. And so, first of all, I want to just apologize to all of our attendees for starting late and letting you in late. This is typically not how we do things here at the Howard County Chamber. However, we had just a host of issues this morning with actually trying to log into Zoom. And this was from multiple devices from multiple locations. And so thank you for your patience. And with that, I'm Leonardo McClarty, and I'm the president of the chamber. And so for those of you I have not had an opportunity to meet, I again want to welcome you to Scale Up. And Scale Up is one of our programs through our GovConnects effort, which is what we refer to as our B2G, or our business to government effort. And specifically, a lot of our programming in Scale Up is geared for those contractors that in essence are trying to scale and get to the next level. And so many of you have already primed, or you're on consistently subcontracting with various companies or teaming and so forth. And maybe you're trying to go from $1 million to 5 million, or 5 million to 15, et cetera. And so with that, we've got a great program today, as you can see here, titled Making the Most of Limited Time. And really, I think when you get those audiences with very important people, you want to maximize the time that you have with them. And so we've got a phenomenal panel. And so I just want to first recognize our sponsors for our GovConnects program this year. And so Taylor, if you could show that slide just quickly again, so that we can recognize our GovConnects annual partners. They are led by Tower Federal Credit Union, as well as Katz Abosch. And there are others that I'm trying not to go off of memory, because inevitably I know I will leave somebody off. But they are our top two. And so maybe we'll bring them back in just a moment. But again, want to, yeah, here we go. And so as you can see, Tower Federal Credit Union, Uninet, Katz Abosch, and then our next level sponsors and BDO and Reliant Management, followed by Aronson, and then Edwards Performance Solutions and HR New. And so with that, I'm going to actually get ready to turn things over to Shirley Collier, who's going to facilitate our panel. And then I'm also going to ask each of you, if you would please mute yourself. Obviously, we'll go through and start doing it on our end, but if you would mute yourself. And then if you're able to stick around after the panel, we're going to go into some breakout rooms and do a little networking here. And so with that, Shirley, the screen is yours.
Thank you. And welcome, everyone. Before we get started, I have just a couple of instructions. You're going to be seeing a PowerPoint presentation here, and we're going to be sharing the slides with you afterwards. But we respect your privacy. So if you do not want a copy of the slides, you do not want the chamber to share your contact information with us, then you have an opportunity to opt out. So if Morgan, you or Taylor, if you can put the poll up, that will give our attendees an opportunity to opt out if you wish. So we also encourage you to use the chat feature. I know that you're on mute, but you can use the chat feature as we go forward to ask questions. We're going to hold the questions to the end. And I think that since this is a meeting format, you'll be able to turn your mics back on as well at the end to ask questions. So the format here is that I have some slides and I'm going to do share some of my thoughts regarding capability briefings and CAPE statements. And then I have two very special guests that are joining me today. Ralph Liuzzo, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for Intersoft Data Labs. Ralph, you want to say hello?
Hi, Shirley. Hello, everyone. Hope everybody survived the blizzard we had yesterday, or a Maryland blizzard, I guess it's called. And hey, looking forward to another great Howard County Chamber scale-up event. So thanks, Shirley.
Thanks, Ralph. And my other guest is Dina Bell Nance, who is the Chief Culture Officer at Training by Design. So Dina, you want to say hello?
Just want to say good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm also one of the board members for the Howard County Chamber. So on behalf of the Howard County Chamber of Commerce and on behalf of the board of directors, we welcome you and thank you for sharing this day with us today.
Thank you so much. So Dina and Ralph, you can mute, and I'm going to attempt to turn my camera off so I'm not too distracting. And then we're going to get started here in just a second. Okay, I'm not sure how to do my camera, so I'm just going to leave my camera on, but I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Okay, so these are my my two guests that I'm going to be asking that they come in. So we're going to be talking about CAPE statements and briefings when minutes count. And I've asked Dina and Ralph to challenge me at the end with some very specific scenarios and questions. So hopefully what they are experiencing is very similar to what many members of our audience are also experiencing. So I have a couple of assumptions before we get started. I'm assuming that most of you are working for companies that already have government contracts. You already have past performance and you want to know, how do we leverage that? How do we step on the accelerator and get our company to the next level? One of the first things that you do, of course, when you're reaching out to a new agency or to a new area of an existing agency is to develop a capability statement. So I'm going to talk about what are some of the key elements of capability statements, what are the biggest mistakes that small businesses make. And one of the things that small businesses do is they make it too salesy, fancy graphics and pictures, and that, you know, a lot of slogans and quotes. And although I teach my clients to use quotes and slogans, it can sometimes be very distracting in a capability statement. And the other mistake that I see is that it's too cluttered, long list of capabilities, often repetitive capabilities. And what happens is the people that you're trying to attract or talk to. Okay, thanks. I'm not sure what happened there. That you want to make sure that you grab the attention of the decision maker that you're talking to and present to them exactly what they're looking for. So you want to customize your CAPE statement for the audience. So if it is the Department of Homeland Security, if there are very specific opportunities that you're going after in the Department of Homeland Security, then you want to start your CAPE statement by saying ABC Company supports the mission of DHS in setting up a call center or whatever the specific opportunity is that you're going after. You want to list your relevant experience and past performance. A lot of times with small businesses, you have experience in a number of different areas for a number of different agencies. Before you get your niche, which is what happens with small businesses, you take advantage of opportunities that come your way. But over time, you'll begin to focus your capabilities, and you want your CAPE statement to also reflect that that very specific purpose and focus. The other mistake that I see a lot of small businesses make is they will use a lot of adjectives to describe themselves. We're the best, we're hardworking, we're honest, we're those sorts of things. And everybody says the same thing. So what you want to do is to back up the assertions with statistics, with metrics. So for example, I wrote down here an example that, so you want to say something like, we have instituted robotic process automation covering 270 repetitive IT processes in 6 federal agencies that saved over $11 million in operational costs. So the more you can quantify what your capabilities are, the more effective it's going to be. It will grab their attention and will distinguish you from other small businesses. Your CAPE statement, of course, should include your demographics, the contract vehicles that you're on, your DUNS number, cage code, the NAICS codes, all those sorts of things, your socioeconomic certifications, and your contact information. But that can be in a box at the very bottom. You want to lead with your value proposition. Okay, so this is a template for a good capability statement. Now, this is not probably the format that you want to use. You can see that I don't have any graphics, no colors, nothing fancy here. But what I'm trying to depict here is not so much the design of your CAPE statement, but what it should contain. So the core competencies, and as I mentioned before, any kind of statistics and metrics that you can conjure up, you want to put that in there first. With your past performance, you want to describe specific past performance. So if this is for a call center that Department of Homeland Security is asking for, you want to describe your experience in setting up and managing call centers in other agencies. You also want, as you are describing or as you are developing a CAPE statement for a specific customer, put in there the name and contact information for your other customers in federal agencies. So you want to put their name, their title, their email, and their phone number. Now, that's not the version of the CAPE statement that you give out to the public, because your competitors are also members of the public. So I always recommend to my clients that they have two versions of a CAPE statement. One is customized to the specific audience that they are talking to, and the other is more generic and it's for handing out at trade shows. You also want to talk about your differentiators. And many times small businesses think that what differentiates them is the fact that they are hardworking and honest. But there are a lot of hardworking, honest small businesses out there. Discuss your quality programs, discuss the certifications, any kind of industry awards that you have received. That is what really distinguishes you. If you have developed intellectual property, if you have a certain methodology that you use, if you are more of a service provider than a product provider, even being a service provider, even if you are a staffing agency, if there are unique ways in which you approach recruiting and staffing that you can depict in a diagram, we have 14 steps or we have 150 steps, that's what you want to articulate in your CAPE statement. And then the other things are about your company data. If you have been in business for a long time, you want to mention that, and then any other information, relevant information about your socioeconomic certifications and so forth, and how they can get to you, contracting vehicles that you're on. And for small businesses, a credit card is a contracting vehicle. So that's something to remember. And I'm going to be talking in a minute about the simplified acquisition procedure. But don't forget to mention that you accept credit cards, if in fact you do. It's a way to get your foot in the door. So these are some of the critical elements when you have an assertion. This is an example. We're able to retain qualified personnel in highly competitive positions. These are the benefits to you, and then you substantiate it with graphs and other types of statistics. Okay, so some of the most effective practices then that I have seen with small businesses is to have this public version that does not have proprietary information or information about your clients in it. If you're introducing yourself to a new agency or to a new division of an existing agency, you want to have identified at least 2 upcoming opportunities. You want to grab their attention. The worst thing that I see with small businesses, and this is the feedback that I get from contracting officers and program managers, is that a small business will come in sort of hat in hand and say, what have you got for me? They hate that. If you do your homework, if you've identified some upcoming opportunities that you think you're qualified for, do the market research, that serves very well, gets the conversation started, so you have already identified where you can help the agency. So you want to gather as much information as possible about the opportunity beforehand. So you want to know if it is a recompete of an existing contract. You want to know who the incumbent is. You want to know when that contract expires. You want to know how that product or service was procured previously. So if it was an 8A set aside or a woman-owned small business set aside, if it was full and open, have all that information at your fingertips, because what you're doing is speaking their language, and they respect companies that have done their homework and that understand how government procurement works. If you're having a conversation with them, so let's say that you've identified an opportunity and it's currently a full and open, but it's $4 million or less, and you are an 8A certified company, and you want them to consider when it comes up for recompete to do maybe a sole source, or at least to compete it under the 8A program. Have all that information available so that you can have a constructive conversation, because you're not going to get more than 15 minutes. With most program managers or contracting officers that have authority, they're going to give you 15 minutes. You should not talk more than 7.5 minutes. And then the other 7.5 minutes, you're asking questions. So you're asking them for feedback. You're also asking for introductions. So if you're talking to the contracting office, you want to get to the end customer, which is the program office. And the contracting office many times will act as a filter. Their internal customer is the program. And they're not going to make an introduction to the program until you have passed muster with them. But that is your goal. Even though the contracting officer does have decision-making authority, it is a complex sale, and there are many decision makers and influencers. So you want to ask for introductions to others who will influence the buying decision for what you're selling. If you do a capability briefing, they like your CAPE statement, they like what you've said in your capability presentation. You want to take a baby step. You want to reduce the risk for them for doing business with you. And I'm assuming that they haven't done business with you in the past. It's a lot easier if you already have past performance and good CPARS ratings and so forth. But many times small businesses are just getting started on, they only have 1 or 2 contracts, they want many more. They're going out, they're reaching out to agencies where they don't have a previous relationship. So it's a cold call. If they like what they hear and see, then you want to ask for the next step, which is to demonstrate your capabilities. It can be a demonstration of some software. It can be demonstrating a methodology or a framework that you have developed. So always ask at the end of your CAPE statement, at the end of your capability briefing, for the next step demonstration. After the demonstration, then you want to ask for a pilot, to do a pilot project, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 people, whatever the case may be, something that maybe lasts 4 to 6 weeks, that you can further demonstrate the value of your products and services to this agency. The last thing that I want to mention about an effective practice is ask how you can help them. This is particularly effective if you're talking to people in the small business office. I had that experience once myself. In one of my previous companies, I really wanted to do business with the National Science Foundation. I was looking for an SBIR. And my company had a product that we were developing that I thought was just perfect for one of the programs at the National Science Foundation. So I identified the program, I identified the program manager, the topic, and so forth, submitted a proposal. It was not funded. I had to wait for the next quarter, submitted another proposal. It was not funded. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. This is perfect. They should fund this. So I reached out to the program officer, program manager, and sent an email, no response. Called, left a message, no response. I waited a week, sent another email, no response. Sent another voicemail, no response. This went on for 3 months. Every week for 3 months, I reached out to this contracting officer. Actually, he was a program officer. After 3 months, I think he just got frustrated with me, got so angry. He said, okay, you have 15 minutes. And I'm up near Baltimore and he was in Arlington, Virginia. So I drove all the way to Arlington, Virginia. This is pre-COVID, for a 15-minute presentation. He actually had a clock on his desk and he turned it around and he said, okay, on your mark, get set, go. And so I was talking as fast as I possibly could, trying to explain my company, the product, the research that we've done, why we qualify and others. And he wasn't even looking at me. In fact, he turned away from me and he was working on his computer. And I thought, this is not working. And I had read before that the National Science Foundation specifically was having a hard time filling their scientific review boards with people from industry. So I said, and his name was Glenn, I said, Glenn, I might be able to help you. Are you looking for people from industry to serve on your scientific review boards? And he stopped and turned around and he said, you would do that? And I said, sure. So he signed me up the next quarter. When the proposals came in, I was on the review board. I was conflicted out. Of course, I could not submit a proposal for that quarter. Then the very next quarter, I resubmitted the same proposal that I had submitted twice before. And guess what? It was funded. So asking what you can do to help them, and many times, especially in the small business offices, they do vendor outreach sessions and they like to have case studies. They like to have real contractors, especially small businesses, to speak. So offer to help them with their vendor outreach program. Okay, so how to get an appointment. In addition to persistence, which that is absolutely necessary in the federal sector, be opportunity specific. So you're talking about a need that the agency has. You want to describe your innovation. You have to do something different. These contracting officers, small business offices, program managers, program offices, they get small businesses parading through all the time. You have to distinguish yourself from everyone else. So drive competition. Drive innovation to reduce your competition. There's no reason. They're very risk averse. The government, all the decision makers in the government are risk averse. So there has to be a compelling reason for them to not do business with company A and to do business with your company. So be very specific about your innovation. Understand the procurement regulations, and I'm going to be talking about one in particular in a few minutes. So if you're not muted, please do so. Okay. And there are also myth busting memos that I recommend that you read. There have been 4 of them that are issued by OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. In fact, that's one of the things that I'm going to be sending out as part of the handouts after this presentation. The myth-busting memos, they're internal memos that come from OMB to contracting officers around throughout the entire federal government. So every contracting officer ultimately reports up to OMB. And the myth busting that these memos cover is how a contracting office can interact with industry prior to an RFP. So the myth that a lot of contracting offices have is that they're not allowed to have one-on-one communications with small businesses for fear of giving them a competitive advantage and so on and so forth. But the FAR actually encourages one-on-one communications early and often with industry, and especially with small businesses, because they are looking for innovation. They're looking to expand their contractor base. So understanding these myth-busting memos will help you in your conversation. So if you reach out to a contracting officer, and if the feedback that you get is, oh, we're not allowed to do that, then you have some ammunition to counter that assumption. One of the myth-busting memos that I'm going to send to you was just, let's see, that was in April of 2019. Yes, it was almost 2 years ago now, that identified market liaisons. It was an edict from OMB that every federal agency has to appoint a market liaison that is aligned with programs. The purpose of the market liaison positions is to shepherd small businesses to decision makers in the programs. Now, you might be thinking, well, isn't that the purpose of the small business office? Aren't they supposed to do that? No, the small business office is not aligned with the programs. If you understand kind of the hierarchy in the federal government, the small business offices are administrative offices, and they're not empowered, nor are they trained to do that. So I can count on one hand, I've been doing government contracting for almost 30 years now. I can count on one hand the number of times that I have been, my clients or I have been introduced to a decision maker by someone in a small business office. That's just not their mission. They're really there to describe to small businesses how the agency works, basically. But they don't do introductions, they don't evaluate capability briefings or CAPE statements and say, oh, let me introduce you to someone that can use your services. But that is the role of these market liaisons. So I'm going to send that to you so you know who the market liaisons are, how to find out who the market liaisons are for each one of those agencies. You also want to attend government events. There are a lot of trade shows and seminars and those sorts of things that are put on by industry companies. And some of those are really good for networking, but the ones you want to attend are the ones that the government sponsors. And be persistent. Like the story I told you earlier. In fact, I have a book that I recommend that I think that you will like, and it's called The Like Switch by Jack Schaefer. And he talks about the 4 elements of persistence. It's proximity, duration, frequency, and intensity. And I think that you'll enjoy that book. Okay, let's see. Ralph and Dina, if you will come back on here, there's also another book that I wanted to recommend real quick. So while they are coming online and share some of their specific scenarios that we're going to do some live problem solving here. But another book that I recommend that I think you would like is called Competing Against Luck, and it's by Clayton Christensen. He's a Harvard professor, and he describes in terms of understanding how your innovation solves a customer's problem. He said there's 4 elements to it. It is actually 3. It's what is the situation? So from the customer's perspective, when this happens. The second is the motivation, customer saying, I want to. And then the third element is expected outcome, or so I can. So that what the customer is saying, when this happens, I want to do this so I can then achieve that. He explains it a lot better than I do. So that's also one of the books that that I would like to recommend. So let me see if there was anything else in my notes here that I wanted to mention. So I don't think so. So the first scenario here, so I'm going to stop sharing. So Ralph, we did not introduce you very much. So if you will do that first, introduce yourself and your company to the audience and ask your first question.
Sure. Well, thanks, Shirley. So my name is Ralph Liuzzo. As Shirley mentioned, I am a Chief Strategy Officer for Intersoft Data Labs. So we are an IT services and solutions company based in Columbia, Maryland. We have a couple of other satellite offices around the country, and we also have some development centers offshore. And we are your typical IT company, right? We do enterprise development. We help companies with digital transformation. We do a lot in the testing arena. So we do a lot in QA. We've done IV&V work. We do a lot in the AI space. I think I'm using every acronym and letter available. We've done a lot in the RPA space also, right? So we are basically, consider ourselves a strategic partner to our clients. We're not a body shop. We don't provide staffing. If you needed 2 Java developers, don't call us. But if you want a strategic partner that's going to help you get through your business goals and to help you over a several-year period of time, then you should call us. That's what we look for. So we enjoy doing that. I recently joined the company about 2 years ago after spending 30+ years kind of in the commercial sector. I was a CTO at some companies, and I was a head of strategy and planning there. And that's why it was a natural fit to come to Intersoft. We have been in, like I said, the commercial sector at Intersoft for 18 years, started in 2003. We've had some Fortune 500 clients like Citi, like Bed Bath & Beyond. They're some of our larger clients. And when I joined, one of my goals was to help the company get to the next level, as the owner put it. And getting into the federal government and state government space is something we're looking to do. So, which is why, we started participating with the Howard County Chamber, working with Shirley and the other programs that the Chamber offers. So that's personally one of my goals, to get the company some big contracts in the government space. But as Shirley mentioned, it hasn't been that easy. So I'll kind of describe a scenario to you, Shirley. Maybe other companies are seeing the same thing. Maybe you could help us with, right? So you had mentioned, make the connections, right? Meet up with some primes, try to win some contracts. But how does that happen, right? We have been trying to get in front of those decision makers ourselves. We've been trying to meet primes, right? And 2020 was a tough year to do a lot of that stuff, but even maybe going forward, how we can address that in 2021. We'd like to meet companies. We'd like to distinguish ourselves. We'd like to meet contract officers. But how do you do that? I mean, how do you effectively do that?
Okay, so I'm going to make a couple of notes here. Okay, so I talked about innovation a few minutes ago. You have a lot that you can leverage, even though I know that you have some past performance in the federal government as a subcontractor, but most of your past performance is in the commercial sector, right?
Correct.
So that is a competitive advantage. Many times contracting offices, there's sort of a halo effect. Contracting offices always think that companies in the commercial sector are more innovative than government contractors. It's not always the case, but they have that perception. You can leverage that to your advantage. So when you reach out to contracting offices or you reach out to other prime contractors or program offices, emphasize your knowledge and experience in the commercial sector and how that can be leveraged. You bring a fresh, innovative perspective, understanding the industry, the commercial industry, and how that might benefit your customer in the federal government. I also recommend that you do some market research and identify at least 2 upcoming opportunities that you think you could add value. And then reach out to those prime contractors if their contracts are coming up for recompete, or a competitor to someone that has a prime contract that's coming up for recompete that you can partner with and add value. Let's see. The other thing is, even though you've been a subcontractor, if your employees have been at that agency for a while and have developed some relationships, so you want to radiate out, take advantage as much as you can with relationships that they have developed with either people that work for other companies, so other prime contractors, or with people within the agency that might be able to open up a door to get in front of them. And then I just made a little note here. The other thing that I would recommend for you, Ralph, is identify the industry liaison in one of your target agencies, because you do have, and one of the reasons I wanted Ralph to participate in this is that his company is a substantial size company, still considered small in federal contracting terms, but Dina's company is a lot smaller. So I wanted to have a larger small business represented as well as a small business represented. The issues are not that different. The scale might be different. But I think that the industry liaisons in the agencies that you would like to go after might be able to help you. They would open up doors to get you in front of the right people.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Shirley.
Okay, you're very welcome. Okay, Dina, if you will introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what your first question is.
Wonderful, wonderful. Again, my name is Dina Bell Nance. I am the owner and Chief Culture Officer of Training by Design Incorporated. We are celebrating 19 years in business, and we currently focus all of our efforts in shifting your culture. So our core tagline or elevated speech, if you will, is that we create customized learning and development solutions to shift your culture. And how do we do that? We do it through our professional development training, project management training, technology training, coaching, and speaking engagements. While we only have 2 to 3 people that actually support our business on a regular basis in the office, we actually have a team of trainers we have 5 trainers that support our efforts. Those 5 trainers are all 1099. Most of them either have another training business themselves or they're in a training industry, but each of us absolutely love the idea of learning and development, and that's what we do full time. That's our core business. So mine is a little bit different than Ralph's. Where we have had federal presence probably for about 13 years of the 19 years. But even though we've been in these agencies, all of our things, as I told you, Shirley, have been very small efforts. On occasion, it might have been 3 classes a year. Once in a while, we've gone in and done only 3 classes. So really, my biggest question is, how do we grow either our current presence in federal government with those current clients or current agencies we're supporting, or how do we go in with all that great past performance to grow them? Because right this minute, we have a current small contract at DHS, FDA, GSA, and ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence. So we're currently at these agencies right now, getting very small capacities, but we've been at State Department for 6 years. We were at another agency, USICH, nobody knows them, but we were there for about 2 years. So, and because I had the opportunity of being part-time adjunct faculty for the graduate school about 7 years ago, but I was there for 6 years. it gave us powerful past experience where we were training probably about 12 to 15 agencies in that role, only in the technology side. But for about 6 years, we were able to train all of those agencies that would come to that location of the graduate school in the heart of DC between LaFont Plaza, the FBI building. So we got a lot of experience from that, but we want to grow. We want to grow to either 6-month programs, 1-year programs, 3-year programs. We just want to grow them to longer opportunities right now.
Okay, that's great. So you already have your foot in the door. You already have past performance. Have you ever asked your current customers what impact your services have had on the agency?
No. I mean, maybe 1 years ago, but not on a regular basis at all.
So that's one of the first things that I would recommend, Dina, is that if you can articulate the impact that you have had on that agency, and even asking your client for feedback, how has this worked out for you? Did we help you meet your objectives? Did this save you money? Whatever the purpose was of the training programs, that opens up a conversation about what else can we do for you. The other thing is, Dina, if you had staff members that were on site, can you get any feedback from them? Did they observe other things that were going on in that agency, problems, issues, concerns, turnover, new programs? What's going on with those agencies?
Awesome.
You have a unique opportunity because you have been on the inside that your competitors that are not on the inside don't have that opportunity. They don't have that knowledge. You can use that to your advantage.
Awesome.
So use that. The other thing is do market research. And I mentioned that to Ralph as well. That's one of the things that small businesses don't take advantage of as much as
Okay.
large businesses do. But all this information is public. There are a lot of public databases out there. Find out about upcoming either procurement forecasts that include
Okay.
training or any kind of opportunities that might be in the market research phase right now. So if there are source of salt notifications or RFIs that are out there, or contracts that are coming up for recompete. If
Awesome.
you do that market intelligence for those agencies where you already have a foot in the door, that gives you an idea of what's coming up. And because you already have a relationship, you can, before the RFP comes out, you want to do this well before the RFP.
Okay.
And if you can, even before the agency does market research on those opportunities. So I always advise my clients to get out in front of opportunities at least a year.
Okay.
Preferably 2 years before those opportunities drop, and start having strategic conversations with decision makers in the government about what you can do and how you would do it. That's all perfectly legal. It's ethical. It happens all the time. Big companies do it. Small companies can do it as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
The other thing that I would mention, to reiterate what I said earlier about demonstrations,
Yes.
that if there is an area, a new course or new learning program that you have that an agency where you currently are that's not using, you can ask to demonstrate your new offering. And as I mentioned
Excellent.
earlier, if they like what they see, then your ask at the end of the demo is, let's pilot this. Let's do a small
Awesome.
program, 6-week program with 3 people, and you can educate them about how to measure success in that pilot.
Excellent. Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So Shirley, one question though about the demo, because I've always been a little nervous to ask about the demo. Is the demo kind of part of our wrap-up conversation with, I would be honored to share your demo with you today or in the next few weeks to show more about what I'm doing? How do I use the demo to continue that conversation?
Yeah, they're usually not going to be prepared right there, even though everything's
Okay.
virtual and it's on Zoom. They're going to say,
Okay.
oh, I have another meeting I need. And if you only have 15 minutes with them, you're not going to be able to demonstrate your product.
Okay.
So you want to say, if they agree to do the demonstration, let's set it up for next week. It's only going to be half an
Excellent.
hour.
Excellent. Okay.
Yep, yep.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for your question. So Ralph, you have another one?
I do. Maybe I'll stump Shirley on this one. I have another question. So, once again, being new to this industry, right? Trying to get into government space after being, commercial so long. People talk about contract vehicles, right? They always say, what contract vehicle are you on? What are you pursuing? Are you going to the SP4? Are you going for the Oasis? What are you going for? And it's kind of confusing, right? Some people say, GSA is the only way to go. So how do you kind of navigate through all these different vehicles, and how do you focus on the ones you should target?
Okay. And you're right. 30 years ago, you could not do business with the federal government if you didn't have a schedule, a GSA schedule. Today, only about 10% of discretionary government spending goes through GSA schedules. So 90% goes through other contract vehicles or direct awards or various ways that the government has to buy. So it's very hard to get a prime position on a GWAC unless you've had other prime contracts yourself. So usually the contracting offices that manage these big GWACs have requirements. They'll have a small business on-ramp, for example, and then they'll put out requirements. Have to have had at least 5 years of experience in health IT, managed contracts of a minimum of 5 million over 5 years or whatever. So they put out sort of a grid that says in order to qualify for a prime contract on this vehicle, which of course, even after you get the vehicle, you have to compete for the task orders. So it would be very hard to get on as a small business prime initially, but you have a lot to offer. So you could jump on a team, someone else, another small business or a large business. Many times there's this misnomer among small businesses that they have to find a large company to team with, that the large company is always the prime. But that's not the case. And in fact, I have seen very innovative, competitive, very successful teams of small businesses that join together, form agreements, and they can be very competitive and very successful. So I would definitely, if I were you, Ralph, to identify, go out 2 years, again, look at all the GWACs, what their purpose is, when they're expiring, and get out in front of it. There's a lot of public information about all the current contract holders, the prime contract holders, and their subcontractors. So there's a whole ecosystem around these GWACs. Educate yourself about those GWACs and initially jump on a team with the strategic perspective that in 3 years, you want to prime it. The next time there is a small business on-ramp, prime on-ramp, then you can start preparing yourself. And again, going back to that grid of what the contracting office says is necessary to qualify, then you now know what you need to do in order to position yourself to win a prime position on that GWAC when it recompetes in 3 years.
Good. Thanks, Shirley.
Let's see. There was I had just made another note about this. If you are a subcontractor on a GWAC, one of the complaints that I've heard from a lot of small businesses, of course, is that the large prime has all the customer interaction and they're just given crumbs and they don't get to interact with the customer. One of the ways to get around that is if you can drive an opportunity to that contract vehicle, even though you're a sub, drive an opportunity to that vehicle, and in your negotiations with the prime is to say, we want to manage this contract. We want to manage this program or project. In that position, of course, you'll have a lot of interaction with the customer, with the agency, and that's how you can develop relationships. And then when the contract comes up for recompete. Or I've seen this happen also, is that the contracting office and the program office can actually bifurcate a portion of that contract, of that work, and set it aside and do a direct award, or, you know, if you're 8A or a woman-owned small business, they can actually sole source that. But you have to get in and see the decision makers. You have to talk to people in the contracting offices and the program offices, and sometimes that's very hard when you're a sub, but that's one way to get your foot in the door.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, and Dina, I think you had one more question, our final question.
Our final question was really tied to the demonstrations and the pilots. So I would love to give up my time so we can open up questions to the floor. I'm fine with giving that up because you answered most of my questions.
Okay, well, I do want to mention
Okay.
about how do you fund. I recommended that you do a pilot and then
Yes.
do a demonstration, demo first, then pilot. With a pilot, you're paid. So how do you convince an agency to pay you to conduct a pilot?
Excellent. Okay.
And that's one of the things that I'm going to be sending out to all the attendees is information about the simplified acquisition threshold and the simplified acquisition procedures. But that is a tool for all businesses. This is not unique to small businesses. It's a tool that the contracting offices can use to very rapidly contract small amounts of money to the government as a small amount of money. The current simplified acquisition threshold is $750,000. It was $250,000, and last year, because of COVID, it was increased to $750,000. So to do a demonstration, that's normally what I recommend, is when you do a demonstration, keep it at 750 or under, so that the contracting office can very quickly and easily get money to you. It's like a credit card. They can get money to you very quickly.
Awesome.
Under the SAP, let's say you do a demonstration, you do a pilot, and they love it. If what you are offering is a commercial item, meaning that it could be sold in the commercial market, not that you have sold it, but it could be sold into the commercial market, the contracting office can do a non-competitive direct award up to $15 million. And that threshold also, that limit also increased last year as a consequence of COVID. Now, post-COVID, those may change, but right now, those are the limits. Okay, so that's it for our formal discussion and problem solving. I'd now like to open up to Q&A, and let's see, we have a little chat here. Okay, the first question from the audience is, when you suggest identifying upcoming opportunities, do you mean finding these before they are listed on FedBizOps/SAM? If so, how do I find these? Or do you mean once these opportunities are listed? It's a very good question, and it's definitely before the opportunities are listed. And the way that you identify that is to look at historical contracts and when they are expiring. So there's a lot of history that's very public and everyone has access to it. Look at what they have purchased in the past. When are those contracts expiring? And determine as best you can if they're going to be recompeted. So that gives you an opportunity to then open up a conversation with the contracting office and the program office. You can also look at procurement forecast. Every federal agency is required to upload to a GSA website. I think it's called acquisition.gov is the website, their procurement forecast for the upcoming fiscal year. So for 2021, which we're in right now, those procurement forecasts normally hit that website between November and February. So we're right now in the middle of when those are supposed to be uploaded. Many agencies also post their procurement forecast on their website. in addition to the GSA website. So definitely check the agency websites in addition to the GSA. Let's see, and so the next question I have here is, what are some other ways to identify potential future opportunities besides procurement forecasts, RFIs, and recompetes? Well, many times, in addition to all the formal things that they do, they will have industry days. Usually the industry days are in response to the procurement forecast. The one thing I did want to mention, that sometimes this is a misleading myth that's in the marketplace, and that is that there's inside information that you can get about a new opportunity, an upcoming opportunity, a new program that no one else knows about. None of the other contractors know about it. It is actually illegal for a government employee to share with you anything that might give you a competitive advantage. If you're already working for an agency and you're already working on that program, many times you actually are conflicted out because you have to know what's going on with that program, but then you can't then propose on that work. If you had any involvement at all in defining the requirements of the agency, then you're going to be conflicted out. So don't ask, don't ask anybody in the federal government. Don't put them on the spot to tell you things that no one else knows. Okay, see, the next question is, what are your best practices for a 1-minute elevator speech? For example, if you only have a minute or two to talk with a government decision maker at an industry event. Well, keep it at 1 minute. You want to mention your how long you've been in business, what your innovation is, and how that innovation has helped other agencies. So you want to be very specific about your core competency and the impact that that core competency has had and over what period of time. So those are the 3 elements if you only have a minute. The next question here is, how often should you follow up with your leads? Once a week, every 2 weeks? No more often than once a week is sort of the rule of thumb, because you'll just irritate them and they'll block you. But there are many ways that you can reach out to your contacts. There's also another myth that government employees are not on social media. They are. They're not going to share public information. I mean, share proprietary information publicly. So you're not going to get any kind of inside scoop from social media. However, most agencies have a Twitter account. Twitter is the mechanism that I have seen most frequently that agencies use to communicate out. So you can follow them, you can retweet. You want to express an interest that you're part of their community. So following them, you can go out to LinkedIn to find individuals and connect with them on LinkedIn. So that's another way. And on LinkedIn, of course, you can see who else is in their network. So if they are reluctant to respond to you, that's one of the ways to make them more comfortable with who you are if you know people in common. So definitely use Twitter and LinkedIn in addition to email. Okay, those are all of the questions that have come in through chat. Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to ask via their mics? Okay, well, those were good questions.
I had one question. This is
Okay.
Brian Hampton from Falcon Capital. Were there any COVID-related changes to contracting that we should be aware of uh, that are expiring or maybe extended?
Are you talking about procurement opportunities related to COVID or just clauses in contracts?
It's my understanding the GSA sent out some guidelines to execute things a little differently during COVID. And I just wanted to validate that was accurate.
I am not familiar with GSA specific communications around that. What I do know is that COVID has impacted every agency, not only in their business practices and their contracting practices, but what they are procuring. And it's astonishing what the government classifies as COVID related. So it could be help desk, it could be business intelligence, loan processing. I'm just thinking of some of the contracts that some of my clients have had. So sometimes people think that COVID is just PPE and maybe some public health people, but it has permeated, just like in society, it's permeated everything that we've done. So there's just hardly any small business whose opportunities have not increased, small contractors whose opportunities have not increased as a consequence of COVID over the last year.
Thank you.
Okay, there are a couple of questions here. Dina, one question is for you, is how did you find and win your initial contracts?
Wow, wow, wow. So I wish I could say they were all of these wonderful official ways, but I want to just be transparent. I had a small contract with the State Department that lasted for 6 years, and this is how I got it. On my wedding anniversary, my husband and I, he took me to my favorite little, it's kind of a high-end consignment shop. And as we hang out in the consignment shop, it wasn't full. So I went over to talk to the owners because I'm always talking chamber and I'm always talking marketing. Matter of fact, I'm always telling people the joke in my house is my children always say, why do you go to the mailbox with lipstick on? But I'm always saying, we're always on. That's always my philosophy is, Leonardo knows it. I would go to the soccer field and I'd have on a cute little blazer with my jeans because at any given point, if I hear project management or I hear Excel or I hear, somebody saying there's an issue in my company, I'm going to nicely introduce myself and just chat and say, can I call you? We're always on. So we're at the boutique. It's my anniversary. And I'm going over to talk to the owners. And I'm saying to them, your store is beautiful. It should be full. Do you guys belong to some chambers? And I'm just talking about chambers. And before I know, my husband says there are 3 people. Now we're at the consignment shop. He said there are 3 people in the line and they want to talk to you. So I'm like, okay, well, I talked to the 2, I answered their questions. The 3rd one says, if you don't mind, I have a few questions. Can we sit on this couch? And I said, not a problem. My husband's shopping. And as we chat, she's interviewing me, guys. She's interviewing. She says, you have a training firm, how did you come up with that? And what's your background? And, I said, are you asking about certifications or degrees? Because I can tell you want to know. And I just answered her questions. And I said, this is what I do. This is what I love. I said, matter of fact, this is what we're good at. And I'm just answering her questions. At the end of the conversation, she says, let me go to my car. I want to get you my card. She was one of the training directors at one of the departments in the State Department. They have many. She was one of the training directors, and it took everything I had not to scream, And it took a year. We conversated for a year, and she literally scheduled several meetings with me. We were talking about coming in, but the person above her didn't really like me. And I said, okay, not a problem. Remember, I'm just at the boutique. I didn't chase her down, but I called her on occasion to try to have conversations, but it took a year. She stopped calling me for about 4 months. I said, okay, not a problem. About 6 months later, she calls back and says, it's time. And I said, what is it time for? She said, I got you a contract. It's time to come in. We're going to do something sole source with you. And it wasn't a lot. It was about maybe 6 classes a year, but I didn't care because number one, it was great money because each of our classes is a little pricey, but also it gave us great past performance to come into the State Department and to have them be pleased and to call us back each year for opportunities. So that was my first one. My first one was when I left my company that I worked for 19 years ago, but right before I left my company, I started making phone calls with people about training opportunities. This particular woman that a friend of a friend introduced me to, she said, if you leave the consultant position today, I will put you on my Metro contract 2 weeks after you leave your company. And I said, are you kidding me? And I told my husband, and he said, okay, you can leave. So, I had already put things in place, but I was waiting for a contract. Well, I didn't really know it, but when she said, I'm going to put you on it. So my very first contract with Metro was, I was a sub to her, and that went on for about 4 years. I had other things coming up, but that was an actual, my first, with a government agency. And then the thing happened with State Department. And then I went to GSA schedule. the USDA office online because they're always looking for trainers. I went online and I applied. And the head of one of their departments called me on a Sunday afternoon and said, would you be my project management trainer? And I said, yes, I will. And I met with him on Monday. So I just want to tell you, just be prepared. Just be prepared. Just be diligent. A lot of people, they don't call me back. The small business reps, they're not always nice to me. I'm not going to call out any agencies. They're not always nice. But I have a t-shirt in rhinestones, ladies, that says, entrepreneurship is not for punks. I don't know how to say, I'm sorry. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to be hung up on and said no to. We're not trying to date them. We're just trying to get business. We just say what you have to say. Miss Shirley gave us phenomenal information. Don't wear your feelings on your shoulders and decide, do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because if you don't, you got to decide that right now because it's getting harder. We're still in a pandemic, so it's not for everybody. But if you're going to be in it, just be in it and be in it all the time and just tell people what you offer and don't worry about if they say no, because someone's going to say yes.
Yes, thank you, Dina. That's excellent.
And Shirley, I got a quick question as a follow-up to that one. And I don't know if you've touched on it. I didn't quite hear it, but it was in the chat room. And so it ties into something Dina said. And this question was asked of how often should you follow up? Whether that's once a week, every 2 weeks. And this person was referencing leads, but I think this could also apply to the different agencies. And I know you touched on the fact of how often you called the agency related to the SBIR program, but if you could just touch on that, at least and share your experience in terms of the follow-up.
Yeah, so I mentioned once a week, no more frequent than once a week, but to also use some of the social media channels to develop a relationship and to touch that person. So that's what I would recommend. We have one last question, and then Leonardo, I think that we're going to go to breakout rooms.
Well, we may. I want to be conscious of the time, and so since we're coming up at 1:30, we may forego the breakouts just because I want to be conscious of the 1:30 stopping part. So we'll just play that by ear, but certainly take the last question.
Okay, so another question just came in. So if we're going to stay till 1:30, then we have about 10 more minutes. So I'll take a few more of these questions that are coming in. One question is, if you are a protege on an SBA approved mentor-protege agreement, should the mentor-protege agreement always be a part of your pitch? And the answer to that is it depends. It depends upon who you're talking to and the opportunity. If you think you're going to be leveraging your mentor protege, it's a larger opportunity that you're going to be going after, definitely mention that. I always caution my small business clients to not lead with their socioeconomic certification. Oh, we're a woman-owned small business that does blah, 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 or we're an 8A fund. That's an, oh, by the way, we're an 8A, we're a woman-owned small business. You want to lead with your value proposition, with your differentiator. Get them excited about what you do, and then they can check that box. So that's the only caution I would say about the mentor protege. It's an excellent tool for the protege. And that relationship can be leveraged to go after larger contracts. You can learn from your mentor. It's definitely an excellent strategy, but it doesn't always need to be part of your pitch. Okay, the next question is, any best practices for keeping outreach fresh? I'm not sure exactly what that means, except that it should always be fresh and exciting and customized to your audience. So the more you can put yourself in the shoes of your audience, the person you're talking to, the more relevant and fresh and exciting that's going to be. So not so much talking about yourself and your capabilities, that will come out in the conversation, but talk about how much you know about them and their agency and their needs, and that will grab their attention. So another question is, when calling once a week, how can I change it up? That's a really good question, because you're sometimes saying the same thing over and over. I would say, let me tell you what I've done. I would try to think of something that I didn't say in the past that might grab their attention. Oh, I see that you have a contract coming up for renewal in 6 months. Next time I call is, oh, I see that you're having a hard time meeting your set-aside goals in the Women on Small Business program. Oh, you know, we have people in common on LinkedIn. I'm just calling to make sure that you know, next week at 1 o'clock might be good for you, whatever, but kind of sprinkle it in with information, again, about them and their program and their problems and their needs. And if you have any announcements, so if you've added someone to staff, you just won a big contract, there's 2 things that these agencies look for: not only your ability to perform a contract, but to reduce their risk. So if you won awards, if you won a contract, or if you've won accolades and awards, that's a way of reducing risk in their minds. And so kind of sprinkling that into the conversation might help a little bit. Okay, are there any other questions? I think that might be it. Anybody want to turn their microphone on and ask any questions that way? Okay. I think we're at the end. Leonardo,
All
you want to
right.
take it from here?
Yes, I'll take it from here. Thank you, Shirley, and thank you to our participants and panelists and Dina, especially, for always sharing some honest nuggets. And so hopefully each of you had an opportunity to really take away some great information that you can really implement today. And so with that, I want to just encourage you to continue to pay attention to our upcoming events, particularly related to GovConnects. Actually, they're coming up on the screen here. And so the first coming up is our Biz Breakfast, which will be coming up in just a couple of weeks here. And this one is going to be actually how you can assist U.S. Cyber Command as relates to some of their technical challenge problems. And so again, this is our Biz Breakfast, which is once a quarter. And we bring in typically agencies, primarily federal, sometimes state, but to ultimately talk about doing business with various agencies and so forth. So this will be one definitely not to miss. Also, our final segment in our cyber risk management series, which is going to be also, I think it's February, I think it's the 26th, I believe. Let me just actually pull it up here so I can give you an exact date. But this is the last in a 4-part series. We had to pivot on our cyber conference last year. And so we ended up making it a 4-part series as opposed to trying to keep you all day. So it's actually going to be Thursday, February 25th. And so those are just 2 upcoming GovConnects events. We'll have more details related to the next Scale Up series as well. And then also tomorrow is our Chamber's Executive Speaker Series, which will be talking about vaccinations in the workplace. And so that is definitely something that you certainly should tune in for. You can also see some of the other upcoming networking events, as well as want to bring attention to February 24th, and that's the Howard County State of Business with County Executive Ball. And then not mentioned here is on Friday, we're doing a small business town hall with Senator Ben Cardin. And so a lot of activities taking place over the next few days and into the month of February. Thank you for joining us again. Also want to thank our sponsors for GovConnects as well. As you can see here, with led by Tower Federal Credit Union, Uninet and Cat Sabosh, and then BDO and Reliant Management, and then Aronson. So again, thank you all for joining us, and look forward to seeing you at future events. That'll wrap us
Leonardo,
up. Yes.
I'm sorry, very quick item, because unfortunately, we had the technical difficulties in the beginning. They did not get a chance to, do their networking. Is it correct that when everyone said yes, that they didn't mind their information being shared? When Shirley's notes go out, where everyone get everyone's email addresses
Correct.
to part? Okay.
Correct.
So I want to just let them know they can connect with each other then to do that. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dana. And we'll have actually at the other events, we'll typically probably do some networking on the front end. But thank you all for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.